I think it might be helpful to just start out with maybe a quick origin story. I love the name of your publication, Please Hustle Responsibly. I think it's brilliant. I'm big on names. I think names are incredibly important. And so, yeah, maybe take us back to, I think you said you started this in 2023. Maybe take us back to that year. Why did you start the newsletter? And what do you hope to, uh, you know, kind of see for the rest of this year in 2025?
Yeah. So I didn't immediately start a newsletter in 2023.
Okay.
I was like, what is the lowest lift version of this that I can do to kind of try to hone in on a format or a writing style that I think I could be consistent with? So I actually started by posting on Medium, and that just felt like super easy. I didn't have to really think of a publication name. It was just my name. I could post whatever and like two people would read it and I'd be like, great. And but that was the beauty of it. I didn't want a lot of people seeing it. I wanted to be able to have this space to just like get used to hitting publish, writing something, putting it out there, seeing how I liked it, seeing how I felt about it in the wild, and reiterating and going from there. So I did that for a couple of posts. And then I said, okay, I've had one person who's read this and decided to subscribe. So I can see one person's email out of the very small amount of people who are actually reading anyway. And
Yeah.
I was like, I would like more of that, actually. I would like more of a connection with the people that are reading and to have more of a conversation with them that doesn't feel connected to any one app, which is really stupid reason to go to Substack, if we're being honest, but here we are.
Yeah.
Um, so in November, that's when I was like, okay, like what's the name for this gonna be? I want to start to make this transition. And I pulled in the post from Medium, which I hope nobody goes back to try to find. They weren't that great anyway. But um my podcast is called Honey and Hustle, and I wanted a name that would complement that. And at the time, as you can probably tell by the name, I drank. And I was like, what is a fun iteration of this? And was just watching TV as one does and saw a commercial that ended with like, please drink responsibly. And I was like, what if we said, please hustle responsibly? What if we put a positive spin on that, you know?
So good, Angela. It's so good. It's one of those names where he's like, man, I wish I would have come up with that. It's brilliant. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I should really do something to get a trademark because nobody else has thought like there is a podcast
Mhm.
called Please, but I don't think they even put out more than like 10 episodes. So I kind of want to trademark it and take it back. But
I think you could. I think you could. I think you have enough evidence, enough body of work to challenge.
I hope so. I hope so. I own the domain, so either way, they can't take that. So
Damn, that's awesome. And so yeah, you're working through Substack, and you a while ago decided to move over to Beehive, and which I'm not a Substack maximalist. I think Beehive is an incredible product. I've used it in the past, and I've seen the video that you did, which I thought was phenomenal, which I'll share with everyone, kind of explaining your rationale and why you made the move. Um, but before we dig into that, I am curious. Like, it appears you're using Substack more so like a replacement for Twitter. And I'm curious if you agree or disagree, and like, have you kind of noticed other people operating in a similar way that you are?
I have. I have. I would even say I use it as a healthier version of Twitter. Um,
Mhm.
when I first started writing daily online, I did start writing on Twitter. This was in September of 2021. So we're talking almost 4 years ago now.
Mm.
And I did that, I think, almost daily on Twitter, maybe 3 years. So maybe into 2024. So that was right at the pinnacle where I was like, we were all trying to see what was going to happen with like Elon Musk when he bought it. And I
Yeah.
stayed for a really long time until I was just like, this just is not a great use of my time anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and so coming here it was so much less about gamification. When I was on Twitter, it was about writing to gain an audience, to gain traction, to gain whatever, conversions, all of that. With Twitter, I don't feel or with Substack notes, I don't feel any sort of pressure to write daily, to show up daily, to do 10 notes a day to gain 4,000 subscribers in 30 days. Like, I'm done playing that game, right? And I think
Mhm.
that is also just a testament to really putting a lot of effort into long form creativity. So, yes, writing the newsletter multiple times a week like a maniac. Yes, doing a podcast. Yes, trying to do a YouTube video when I have like 2 seconds of time. Like, those to me at this point are higher um, forms of return than writing a post on Substack notes that's still only going to be seen by a handful of people. Um, we're not chasing virality here. We're chasing community. And so that's kind of how I choose to use Substack notes.
Yeah. I love that framing, a healthier version of Twitter. I love that you can't see the number of followers you have, how many people, um, you know, someone is following. Twitter and traditional social media does create these, um, kind of, uh, components that incentivize certain behavior. And so when you can see someone's follower count, right, uh, when you're hovering over, someone's avatar, it kind of like, anchors their reply, in your mind, differently. You're like, "Oh, like, this person is important, and so I should value what they said, even more," right? And I love that stuff is stripped away from Substack, and I am curious to see the evolution of the app. Um, it's, not really that fully functional across platforms. So, they need to work on that. But I do wonder, what does the world look like if Substack, if the application, the social media notes component is like as big as Twitter, right? Like fast forward a year maybe, and are these lives like as fully featured on desktop? Can you like share your screen and like really engage an audience with like a chat similar to, how Twitter functions? And does that draw more people to Substack, not to, you know, manage a newsletter, but as like a traditional social platform that doesn't have advertising, it doesn't have all these kind of, calls to action to behave in a certain way. Yeah.
So I want to respond to that, but I also want to just give a
Mm,
shout out to Anna, who was in the chat. Anna's my girl. She's another podcaster. She's really awesome. Um, a couple of things about the app and maybe just my perspective on Substack as a whole.
mhm.
I genuinely believe that Substack has been successful on accident. Like, I don't think they planned for any of this. So to say that they have plans for this app feels like a dream. Um, let's just say that.
Get 'em.
I think that and that's the craziest thing. It's like some people just like fail forward and Substack as an app is just like a testament to that. Like I feel that if they really cared about creators, we wouldn't be asking if they're gonna do more about, giving us more live capabilities on desktop. We wouldn't be asking if they're gonna make the experience equal across Android and Apple. We wouldn't be asking if they're gonna consider new ways to incorporate paywalls, like paying per article, having publication networks that are able to form. Like you can already add in guest writers and things like that. Why is this so hard? I don't know. I don't know. But my thing about the Substack app is, again, like the platform, even on desktop, because you can see notes on desktop, and I believe you can watch live streams on desktop. You just can't go live on desktop.
You can now. They just released that last week, I believe.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. But it just feels like, you know, the writers and the readers and the lovers of great reading have really taken over this. And they are making Substack notes and Substack a place where people want to be. as consumers and as creators, because they're like, "Yo, I don't have to pay for this," right? And while the little bestseller badge looks cute, it's very orange and bright, most people are never gonna have that, and that's okay because it decreases that hierarchy between the creator and the consumer, which I think a lot of people like. They like that this feels very unstructured, it feels very organic, it feels very like, "Who am I gonna meet today? What positive little thing am I gonna read that's gonna just shake up my perspective?" And they love that, and I think they're gonna keep some version of that. I did hear through a little birdie that they are looking to try to incorporate like an ad network in the way that Beehive has, and that's what they're raising their next round of capital to do is to hire ad and sales team to come in and do that. Will that flow over to the Notes app where a lot of people are spending their time? I have no idea, but we
Mhm.
definitely will see that more in articles. So there's that to consider, which I personally wouldn't be mad at. I'll read. I'm still gonna read. I don't care.
Yeah.
And if ad supporting helps people to depend on the paywall less, who are we to
Right.
argue? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's where the biggest upside is from an economic perspective for them, right? It's like it kind of makes too much sense. If you think about Patrick McCormick, he has, I think last time I checked, over 250,000 subscribers. He's not paying Substack anything because he doesn't have paid subscriptions on. He's making all of his money via the newsletter through sponsors, and then he has his own like fun on the side and a bunch of other stuff going on. Um, but how much would he pay Beehive per month for that many subscribers, right? And so it feels like they're missing out on a lot of money by not having this ad network, and it would be crazy if they don't roll that out, you know, within the next year or so.
Yeah. I also think it was a bold proposition for them to assume that people would want to make 90+% of their income from paid subscribers. And so I think they're facing the reckoning of that lack of reality for most writers. So
Agreed. They're like, wait a second. Yeah. And maybe companies like Beehive have kind of put a fire underneath of them where they're realizing like, oh wait, like people value this and we should maybe think twice about it. Um I what would be fascinating is if what if like Beehive is like, we like Twitter, like we're cool with Twitter, but what if they're just like, why don't we create our own little notes platform? And we're not gonna like have this kind of like splashy launch. We'll just kind of, you know, drop it and kind of see what happens. Like do you think other newsletter platforms like Kit and Beehive might feel compelled to get into the short form game?
I'll be honest, I don't. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. And this is also coming from me kind of like being in the Beehive Slack channel and kind of seeing the conversations that like my friends are having that are on Kit and other newsletter hosting platforms. I think one of the main hindrances to creating something like a Substack Notes is the moderation and the curation, right? None of us know how our Substack Notes feeds are curated. None of us do. And Substack has already faced significant backlash over their unwillingness to, um, I don't know if censor is the right word, but address hate speech on the platform. So you're adding another layer of complexity when you're asking a company that does one thing to now do 5 to 10 other things that really, on some level, don't really affect how they do their main thing, right? Like curating my notes feed doesn't necessarily affect how my newsletter grows, in essence, right? What I'm being rewarded for when I participate in notes is the time spent on the app. And that is true for any platform, right? So I think there's some hindrances there. I think there's also some concern about the stickiness and maybe the quality of people and subscribers and potential bots here on Substack that Beehive at present does not have to deal with because they're like, when somebody subscribes, baby, that's between you and Gmail. That ain't got nothing to do with me. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we ain't got nothing to do with that. If you don't
More
want them
features,
within the
more
loop,
problems.
yes, correct. So I think they're just like, nah, we're good. We think we can make a better email hosting platform than Substack, bar none, and that's what we're going to focus on. And I do think that they are doing a pretty decent job at that right now.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I I do feel that ambition can get the best of anyone. And I know Tyler is very ambitious. I don't know him personally, but if Substack objectively is growing like a weed, and it's it's got to be hard to have this competitor like growing at the rate that they're growing, having a lot of success with short form, and not feel drawn to it a little bit. And I do wonder if, you know, Substack does figure out this advertising play and they raise some stupid valuation that isn't deserving, right? Of like their revenue. But they get it anyway. Like, how does that influence other platforms? I hope, you know, uh Substack does change course. And I think the main way they will change course and listen to their, I want to say customers because I'm not paying them anything. But listen to their users, I should say, um, is competition, right? So I maybe selfishly want Beehive or want some other thing to get into this space in a real way to push Substack to be better than they are currently. Um,
I think it's actually, and I hate this. There's somebody on Substack who actually just wrote about this. They wrote an article titled "Maybe It Is All About the Money." But I think what's going to push them is less about Substack notes and more about how much money platforms are paying to creators. Because I don't know if
mm,
you've noticed, but every time that like Substack hits a new million number of people paying for publications, they're like bragging about it because they're like, "Oh, we're paying out X amount of money to creators now."
yeah.
Beehive, we're paying out X amount of money to creators now. Kit, we're paying out X amount of money through paid recommendations to people now. Um, YouTube, we're paying out X, you know what I mean? All the bigger ones that have some sort of artist or creator payout are bragging about. They want to be the top one where people know I can come to this platform and make money. And I think that is part of Substack's push into, oh, we can do if Beehive is doing it, we can do it, right? And I
Mhm.
think Beehive is going to continue to push them in that direction of thinking about how can we satisfy creators. And I'm hoping that results in better features for creators, um, in a way that it historically has not. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, I feel like I want to touch on community a little bit more. How are you managing your community? What's hard? What feels like work? Like, what would you like to improve with how you're running things, how you're engaging with your community?
yeah, a couple of things. One, what's hard is not having the capacity to maybe do all of the things that I dream about. Um, the main one being like this month, I'm definitely taking some time away from going to events to just sit in one place, write, and not just write the newsletter, but also finish writing my first digital product, which is ironically titled Community OS, so Community Operating System. I feel like in the model that is audience community products, I am slacking on the products end of things. So I kind of need to focus on that if I want to continue to make this sustainable. Um, there's that
Don't we
one.
all? Don't we all?
Um, and then on the community side of things, like I just am always inspired by what other people are doing and have had a lot of requests from within the community to do events.
Mhm.
I am an introvert's introvert. Like, it really takes a lot of energy for me to even go to events that I didn't create. So, um, putting in the time, energy, effort, money, of course, to create my own events for the community is something that I want, and I do feel like I have good ideas. But right now, it's about capacity. I do feel like I could be creating more unique moments for the community that I think would spark a lot of more engagement online, not just between me and the community, but between community members, which is always a key goal. Um, that feels difficult, but it feels promising. Like, it doesn't feel impossible. It feels like something that's achievable within the next 6 to 12 months. It's just about potentially empowering some people within the community to help us create some of these events and not feeling like I have to do everything, because that's the whole point of community, right? Um, what else feels hard? I think at times, like I wrote about this, like I had to cancel some of my presence at some events. Um, I was just like, I can't do this and do client work and write and do all these other things. Like, I could spend less money to create more and be a little less stressed from traveling so much. So sometimes
Yeah.
there are trade-offs. It's like, what can I really do well? What experiences can I really give my best at? And if I can't show up my best in person, then I try not to. Like, I try to, whatever I'm going to do, just give my all in that. And so that was hard. I really did want to go to those events, but I just was not able to do that in a way that I felt like was going to be meaningful. I think it's one thing to go to an event. I think it's another thing to maybe leverage that event to create an experience for people. So right now, because I'm not creating my own events, I do try to do something special for people when I go to events. I think I did that really well at Podcast Movement Evolutions in Chicago.
Mm.
I created a poster slash pamphlet that I gave away, had
Yeah.
stickers, attended a lot of meetups, just had a really great time. So my goal is always like, what can I do that makes people feel special, that surprises and delights people. And right now, it's almost like I use events as like a testing ground for certain
Mhm.
things that I might incorporate into my own live event. So that's
I
what I'm
love that.
struggling with right now.
Yeah. I love that, man. I need to do more live events. I was so jealous, when I saw you went to that conference. I had no idea, it was happening, and it's something that I would love to do next year. I think you mentioned it's in San Diego
It's in
next year?
Birmingham.
Oh,
Birmingham.
Birmingham next year, okay.
Yeah, so
I
very hot. That's where I was too.
uh, it was in Birmingham this year?
Yeah. So it's always in Birmingham. Sloss Tech is always in Birmingham. And when I
And the
lived in
podcast
Birmingham.
the podcast conference.
Oh, no, no, no. That's gonna be in San Diego next year, yeah.
Okay, okay, cool.
Mhm.
Alright, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause I was like,
Sorry
I
about
just went
that.
'cause my partner, she's from Atlanta, and we drove from LA to Atlanta, last year, and we stopped, in Birmingham, and, I was like, "Oh, I would pull up." I'd never been, I had a good time. I was like, "I would go."
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. Um, so you're based in Durham, North Carolina, Bull City. I have some friends there. What is community like in like local events look like in North Carolina? What is it like being a creator, in maybe a part of the country that doesn't get a lot of love, not enough attention, and maybe isn't a region that people think about when they think about the creator economy?
Yeah, so those are 2 different questions. So, like, what
Hmm.
does community feel like in Durham? It
Hmm.
feels vibrant, it feels beautiful, it feels Black, it feels inclusive. I love that. I think that is a large reason why it's been so intoxicating for me as a creative entrepreneur. Like, I really feel like for me, it was a perfect environment for me to bloom as a creator.
Mm.
My experience being a creator in Durham, it's almost like this understated experience, right? Like, I meet people that are creators, but a lot of them are not creating original media. They are freelancers. That is the predominant creator workforce in
Mm.
Durham. The other 10% are maybe in-house creators at universities and larger organizations that can afford, you know,
Yeah.
in-house creators. So a very big skew in freelance creativity and a small skew in in-house creativity, not a big skew in like online creators. I know maybe one or two that are big
Mhm.
online,
Okay.
and whatever. So it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just not our thing, right? Where
Yeah.
when you think about like a New York and Atlanta, Chicago and LA, probably a much bigger skew into original creators, right?
Mhm.
And then a smaller skew into freelancers that are working for other creators, and then a smaller chunk in in-house creators. So the skew is going to look, the piece of the pie is going to look different, and that's kind of the three buckets of creativity that I put people in.
Mhm.
Um, and I'd even say in like your bigger cities in the South, when you think about a Nashville, a Charlotte, a Miami, I would say they probably skew more in-house creators.
Yeah.
Maybe in Birmingham as well, a little bit, just because freelance in Birmingham does not pay. Like it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And original media, not really a thing, unless we're talking about the films that come to Birmingham to film.
Mm.
So the piece of the pie is always different. So I try to give people that orientation when they say, well, what's it like being a creator in the South? It's like, well, it depends. It depends on what the industry is like there. Um, so for me, it's been great. I think because I didn't have any like perceived competition,
Mhm.
or even examples of original media when I lived in Durham from people that I knew personally or people that people knew personally. It was a blessing and a curse that I didn't have expectations about what success looked like as an original media creator. And so I think I got to start messy and kind of find my way and find my voice and find my style. And I think
Mhm.
that's the beauty of creativity. I feel very blessed that my video podcast doesn't look like every other video podcast, because now there is almost this like distinctive prescriptive way to do an interview style video podcast that I do not do or subscribe to,
Yeah.
which is nice. It feels good to be that differentiator, because that also means I can iterate and try new things and be great.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're kidding.
Um,
There's
and
there's some people banging outside of my apartment. Hopefully you can't hear that.
no, okay.
Okay.
And, my mom was trying to like get my attention, but yeah, like I feel very free and fluid in my creativity. Like I feel like every time I do something, Um, I feel like I'm ahead of the curve on something, and that feels good, even if I'm not perfect. Like, that feels fine for me,
Mhm.
because by the time I get close to perfect, you'll still be catching up, and that's okay. And I feel
Yeah.
that way about my video podcast. I feel that way about my YouTube channel. I feel that way about my newsletter. And so that's been very nice.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Um, Angela, I could keep like I have so many questions to get through, but I want to pause and give you a chance to pepper me with any questions, or is there anything um that you're curious about from my perspective?
Yes, I am so glad you did that. And I also, before I do that, I want to say hello to the Jacksons in the chat, Denise and Michelle. Hey, girls. And then Max Pete. I don't know if he's still on, but what's up, Max? How you doing? I hope I made you proud with my community answer. Um,
Max is the goat. He's
yeah,
truly the goat.
only Jacksons allowed. I know that's right, girl. Um, so my like, obviously, I knew about indie hackers when I was on Substack. That's how I think we came to know each other.
Mhm.
And I've been, like, following your stuff and, like, on the Indie Hackers website a couple times. I just made an account, so if you're watching, make an account on Indie Hackers, engage with the writing and the prompts, and ask questions. But I think my biggest question right now, and again, this goes back to, like, really being on new forms of media and leveraging them for creative purposes, and that is vibe coding, which is a word that wasn't even in, like, my vocabulary pre-2025, so it just shows you how fast tech is moving.
Mhm.
Um And I started vibe coding because I had a lot of ideas and I was like, I just need to see which ones stick. And some of them did not. Let me just put that out there. Um, some of them I was like, this could be a PDF. I'm doing too much. This doesn't need to be this really big thing that I'm using AI for and melting an iceberg for. Like, it's fine. But you learn. We're learning.
Yes.
And then some things I was like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Like, I could really make something incredible. Um, and that was the basis of Community OS. That is the basis for the
Mhm.
website that I'm building. I was really feeling limited as a web designer, website creator, if you will, um, and I've used almost all of them, and I tried Webflow, and I was like, "Yep, I've hit my max. I don't even know how to change the title on this thing. I cannot do this." And vibe coding just came about at the right time. I was like, I can make custom things," you said. So, I would love to hear kind of your perspective from, like, being the code and prose guy, because the way you described it to me was like what you're writing into Bolt or Lovable or Cursor is the prose. What they're spitting back to
Yes.
you is the code. And I thought that was an interesting way to think about that.
Yeah. So it's the publication I have in the site is Indie Thinkers, and then I got the inspiration from Indie Hackers. But you're good. It's like it's literally I see Indie Thinkers as like kind of a sister cities. I would consider Indie Thinkers to be almost like that for Indie Hackers because to your point about code and prose, um, you know, Cortland Allen, MIT grad, uh, you know, brother from another mother. Um, he started Indie Hackers years ago when, you know, you either could go work at a venture backed startup as a computer science grad, or maybe you could like build your own bootstrap company and make a lot of money and not have to worry about investors and you own the whole thing, right? And then AI and ChatGPT comes along and all these vibe coding tools uh, hit the market and it kind of evolves into if you are a clear thinker and you can articulate your ideas through prose, you can do anything. You can build software, you can design, you can run a marketing agency, you can optimize paid advertising. There's literally no limit to what you can build, especially as a creator, as a business of one. And so, I think one of the more undervalued techniques is called meta prompting. And it's the idea of using these large language models to actually build the prompt that you feed into another tool. So you could go to Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini and say, hey, like generate a prompt based upon this idea I have for uh, Community OS. Like, here's the idea I have for the website. Here's kind of how I want to break things down. Maybe you can upload a screenshot of inspiration from another site that you love. And then it can spit out a prompt that you would never be able to write yourself. Like, it would take you like forever to figure out the nuance of how to craft that prompt. And then you take that output and you go to Lovable, or you go to Replit, or you go to Bolt, and you dump that in. And I'm telling you, Angela, the quality of the output is insane. Like, if you kind of iterate in this way, and then you don't stop there, right? You get a result and maybe you want to tweak some things and make a huge change and you go back to another chat like experience, you create another prompt, you go back to the vibe coding tool, and it's like this iterative cycle that allows you to create something much faster that is actually closer to your original vision. um, so yeah, that's, I think, where a lot of people could be missing out is they're trying to spend a lot of time chatting directly back and forth with these vibe coding tools, and it they eventually get there, but it's really inefficient. And they could be burning through a lot of tokens. They could be spending a lot of money unnecessarily. Um, so if you can like invest in creating an efficient workflow for those prompts, the actual output is going to be better, and you'll get there faster.
That is actually helpful now that I've been doing this for like 3 months. Probably burning through a lot of tokens, just trying to like figure it out. My best help source was when I got frustrated one time because I was burning through tokens and it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And it was also like messing up other parts of the website that I was like, no, I'm good with that. Like, why are you
Right.
messing with that when I'm trying to do this? And someone was like, "Why don't you try doing this?" And I'm like, "Oh, great. That would have saved me like 300,000 tokens. Got it." So, like, now, again, it's almost like but it's not even something that I would even think to do. It's like, why would I talk to AI about how to best talk to AI? Like, it's something you don't think you need, but
Mhm.
probably do need a lot, actually.
And you know what's wild is a lot of pricing structures are fluid and changing frequently. Um, Cursor had to kind of pull back some pricing changes that they made recently because the internet kind of lost their minds and kind of flipped out. Replit introduced some new pricing that is much more expensive, and you're penalized for being inefficient.
Mhm.
So I think the honeymoon phase is over for a lot of these companies where they're just letting you do whatever and not really charging you more than $20 a month. I think that's over. Even D0 from Vercel, uh, you can't really. They won't even, I don't think, allow you to see a visual output without like buying some credits.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and just like a month or two ago, you could do whatever you wanted for like a good while before they're like, "Hey, like you need to pay us." But now it's like you can't even really do anything without paying. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity with using pros to code, and it's a lot of fun. But I think a lot of folks are maybe going to give up soon when they realize it's going to be really expensive. Um, and again, like these tools kind of want you to be inefficient because your inefficiency is their margin.
Yeah.
Right? So, like,
Yeah.
they're not
No.
gonna they don't really wanna help you, like, design a better prompt or to be smarter about telling them not to touch this code, like, only focus on this thing, right? Like, that's something you could add into the prompt, like, "Hey, like, just focus on the scope of, like, this part of the site, or only focus on these files." Those are things you can do, but, yeah, they're not gonna really go out of their way to help you.
No.
Um,
No. Um One thing that I have noticed, so Bolt did a hackathon for the month of June, essentially. Um, I signed up just because I wanted the free stuff. I didn't actually plan on submitting anything that was like I'm not trying to solve the world's problems with AI.
yeah.
Um, I just wanted to build some stuff.
Mhm.
And I ended up going on a paid plan like right before the hackathon. So I would pay like $20 a month to Bolt, which I think is worth it. It's fine
Mhm.
with me. One thing that I'm noticing is that these AI like vibe coding tools are not helping people sift through what's a good idea and what's a bad idea either. So they're depending on all these people who have bought into years and years and years of propaganda about SaaS tools being like the way to go. Oh, it's sustainable, it's monthly revenue. They are benefiting from years of people feeling as though they should be able to get rich off of like 10 hours of work. They are benefiting from people who just want like AI to be this game-changing tech innovation that's just gonna skyrocket the mediocre to the millionaire. And I'm looking at some of these things people are shipping, and I'm like, "Babe, you would have maybe had a better time spent just, like, applying for a job at this company that already does what you're doing." Maybe you would have had a better time actually talking with people about if this is something that they wanted. Like, there
Mhm.
also isn't that level of filtration there in terms of ideas, which they're also benefiting from. Um, what do you think is gonna be, like, this next wave of, like, responsible AI use or even, like, the bell curve of people realizing that, like, those things are not true?
Oh, that is so good. So a lot to unpack there. Yeah, I do think that that we're coming down the curve right now, like, uh, into I can't remember, it's like is it the valley of despair or something like that? I can't remember what the phrase is, but yeah, I do think we are, like, this whole movement the past, what, 6 months really has been fueled by years of people believing that, they're one SaaS tool away from freedom, you know? And forgetting, like, I mean, we say this all the time, distribution is everything, right? Community is everything, but people forget those things when they start to get a little greedy, or they start to see like, "Oh, it's easier to get to this end, result, which is a SaaS product." And so I'm much closer to making a lot of money as a solopreneur, as a creator, than I was a couple years ago. And so they're like chasing after this, perceived efficiency, this perceived like opportunity to get to a destination much, much faster. Thing is, everybody can get to the destination faster. And so, like, there's no arbitrage opportunity. It's not like you're the only person has access to these tools and to the opportunity. And so you get to build a lot faster when everyone else is still like not existing in the AI world. Uh, and so I think the next, um, phase is similar to what, not to push my own stuff unnecessarily, but similar to what I'm trying to do with indie thinkers and what I think platforms like Meta Label, the opportunities that they present where, it's not you know, um, what is it? It's a PvP, player versus player. I think it's gonna be like community first partnerships. Um, you're gonna see more creators working together in order to not just build a product, but to identify what is like worth building, first of all, like what matters most, and being able to leverage their collective distribution in order to reach customers, in order to cut through the noise. I think it's so hard today, July 7th, 2025, for myself or you or any individual creator who has a network, who has connections, who has good ideas to get their products out there. Very difficult. Um, and I think we're going to see more people like collaborate and work together to bring something to market in a different way. The company Every also is a good model for this. They're not a collective, they're an actual company, but they have a lot of entrepreneurs in residence that kind of manage individual products, and every leverages their huge newsletter and community to push those products out, and they kind of bundle software into, like, one subscription. Um, and I think that's gonna be more common. I really do. I think I could totally see you working with 3 of your friends to, like, push out a product versus you like, trying to fight uphill to get it on your own.
Yeah, that's something I've said about media, like,
Mhm.
even with Substack, it's like, I think there's gonna be a lot more success in creators coming together to create publications that even if they decide to do a paywall, it makes a lot more sense because 'cause you're getting access to more creators, versus, like, every single creator trying to do an $8, $10 a month subscription, right? It just doesn't stack up when you're putting it up against a Netflix or Hulu that has everything you could ever want to watch.
Yeah.
It's like if you're doing the written version of that for people who just prefer to read, I'm sure that your perspective is great. I'm sure my perspective is great, but wouldn't it be so much better if like we could get someone from food and cooking, someone from tech, someone from creativity, someone from business, someone from
Mhm.
pop culture all together to do something that we can uniquely do together and that offer that almost like programmatic um, model for a media company. I think that's also going to
Yeah.
grow as much. And I think we're going to see more tools to allow people to collaborate. Like, honestly, I think Instagram's best feature is your ability to create a collaboration post. And I think you're going to see that so much more with like YouTube and maybe even TikTok, Threads, like other forms of media where people are like, yeah, my 400 followers love me, but I think our 4,000 subscribers would love this thing that we're working on. So,
Yeah, and maybe one I don't necessarily see this as a threat to Beehive or Kit, but maybe one real threat to Substack could be a platform that's almost like a carbon copy of Substack, but is a, you know, kind of community like first version where communities are putting out posts and um, are bundling, you know, essays under one brand, um, and not just not just the media aspect of it, but also the like revenue splits and handling that on the back end. That's one thing that Meta Label is like just phenomenal at is handling like all the kind of nuance around how do people actually get paid and like what do those percentages look like and is that transparent within the group and I can't imagine Substack going down that path.
so a little bit of cool. So I asked them about this. So there was someone from Substack at Podcast Movement Evolutions. I went to their session because I was like, one, I need to see if you're real. Let's just start there. I need to see that you exist. Number two, I need to ask you questions because when am I going to get this opportunity ever again in life? And so I did ask them, I said, hey, are you guys going to start exploring? I asked about Substack Live because that was like the main thing. But then I also asked about the revenue model. I was like, hey, like I think the paid, subscriber thing is great, but do you think you could offer more variations of that, like paper article or paper publication that allows multiple creators who have publications on Substack to come together to create a network? And she's like, well, we don't know how that would work for payout. And I'm like, babe, we'll figure it out. Well, I just need the option. Okay. I just need the option. But again, it was like, and I told somebody else this, it was just very clear to me that when I spoke with, this was a woman, I spoke with her, it was just clear that Substack just does not take a lot of time to talk with writers and creators. Michelle said dead. I'm just being real.
Yep. Yep.
Um, it's just like, it was just very clear to me they didn't take a lot of time to talk to writers, which to me is like at their detriment because they have so many writers they could talk to. And it could be as easy as just sending a little push email saying, hey, that YouTube does all the time that I ignore because they're incredibly long surveys and I don't think they actually change anything. But it's just like, hey, help us shape the future of Substack. Can I get your feedback on these 3 to 5 things, right? Like just see if there's something that there's enough demand for. Because I can't be the only one trying to talk to their little AI bot asking questions. I just can't be. And not getting a response because they don't know anything because they're not a person.
Right.
So I have asked, I do think it's something that, I mean, it's just like, low-hanging fruit for Substack at this point. I don't and even, like, ebooks, maybe even the ability to add who you are. Are you a writer? Are you an editor? Are you a reader? Are you
Mhm.
a media buyer? What's happening here? Are you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot more opportunity to really elevate if you feel generally that Substack is the place for media and culture and all these things. And like, why are we not giving people the tools to really be at the forefront of media and culture? Because I was actually just listening to a podcast episode, I forget what it's called, but it's by Semaphore and it's on YouTube.
Mm.
And they were, I think they interviewed Brian Cook, I think is his name or something. He is the one of the podcast co-host of How
Mm.
Long or something like that. It's like it, interviews a lot of, like, celebrities, music artists, and it's with a DJ friend of his, but he was basically like, "Yo, Substack isn't cool." Straight up. Like, a lot of the writing on there, trash. A lot of the writing on there, use an editor, babes. And you know what? Nobody ever got clout from Substack. I could take my weekly GQ article and make more money on Substack right now, but I won't do it. Because you know
Mhm.
what? Me having an article on GQ every week gets me more clout, gets my podcast more listens, gets more of our ad spots sold than me writing a little newsletter on Substack ever would. And I say, you know what? You just cooked me, but But you're onto something. Like there
Mm.
is this lack of like clout. And I think that's also kind of the spirit of Substack, which is weird. It's almost like they prefer it if you're a smaller, unknown writer, just writing your heart out into the void with all the mistakes and grammar errors to show your humanness. Like they love that. But there's also like this very real part of traditional media that's like, yo, I would never, never in my life. And some of y'all need to be told your ideas aren't good. Like we need to bring gatekeeping back. And I'm like, whoa, I hate it for that. I hate it for that so much.
Yeah.
On some level, they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
Yeah, it is like a weird dynamic between them, you know, allegedly paying creators to join the platform, and incentivizing big publishers to move to Substack by reducing their, fees or giving them advances on paid subscription revenue. And so they are whale hunting for sure and trying to bring that authenticity, that clout to the platform. But, the other side of the same coin is you see a proliferation of like mediocrity, for lack of better phrases, and um, that is just something that I think will exist and will have to be kind of filtered and, I would say, controlled at the user level. I can't tell you how much the past week I've been hiding notes in my feed and saying, "Show me less of this." It's actually helped so much. I do it like pretty frequently now, and it has improved the feed. Yeah.
That's insane. I want to respond to that because that's honestly hilarious. But Michelle said I also mentioned book publishing. These people actually read on this platform. They do. We got real readers in here,
Yes. Yes.
real people above the sixth grade reading level, ready to engage, and they do nothing for them. Nothing. And it's really to the detriment of their users. I mean, honestly, because think about it, when someone like me or even someone like you or Michelle, when we take our newsletter list and we go somewhere else, baby, those people are still going to come with us. They're not just like maybe some, maybe there'll be a little bit of churn of like, oh, I don't want this in my inbox. I only wanted the Substack notes notification. Cool. That's like 5 people in the grid. Like we don't care about those people.
Yep.
Like there are still some like my open rates got higher when I went off Substack. And for a lot of people, that's going to be true for them. Like, I think they need to consider the fact that people can always leave because it is free and because there is no barrier. Like, people can always leave. So you have just as much onus on you to like keep people there, both readers and writers, than you
Yep.
think. So, I don't- um, but yeah, going back to you trying to like curate your Substack notes feed. Um, I have only ever, I think, blocked one person, and so like on Substack. But it's because they were, like, genuinely very rude and genuinely just not an okay person, and they're one of the bigger writers on there, but I think, like, bigger writers on Substack have just, like, experienced just a different relationship with Substack than we do. They have different analytics, they have different incentives that keep them using Substack that, again, are not equal. They can't even get their app equal among Apple users and Android users. And they still and, like, it's like this hierarchy that exists on the platform that, I think people are gonna start to get fatigued with in terms of, like, why are these people who started some of them with the same things I started with, getting so much more out of this than what I'm getting out of this, and able
Mhm.
to make this such a better experience for their community than what I'm able to do with this platform.
Yeah. That's real. That's real. And I think at the end of the day, you can go all in on one platform. I see people that I respect talk about how you can grow your Substack on Substack. You don't need to use any other platforms or any other form of social media, and you can just go 100 on Substack. That's fine. Not here to judge. But I think you have to consider, like, is that working for you? This decision on what platform to use, what platforms to use is very personal. you really have to look at the data. One of my favorite creators, Jay Klaus, uh, was one of the first creators I discovered online that took a very analytical, data-driven, scientific method approach to growth. And I think that's really important. You got to look at the data. You got to see like what are you getting out of not just the platform, but the strategy you're using on the platform.
Yeah. I think so Jay Klaus, he just joined. I do follow him, or Creator
Mhm.
Science. I don't subscribe to his blog on Substack. Justin Welsh, Dan Coe, Chanel Basilio, David
Right.
Perel, a lot of people, again, to your point, whale hunting. Some of it Substack has done, some of it other creators have done, because I think they are just no longer feeling the euphoria of like Twitter and LinkedIn, and they're
Mhm.
chasing that again. So part of my question around them coming to Substack, one, I feel like they're chasing a high that is going to very quickly dissipate. And
Yes.
I think we're going to see very quickly that, oh, this is just another game I have to play. Am I interested in playing this game, or do I want to think bigger? And I think that's also maybe feeding into Brian's point. It's like the people that are attracted to Substack notes, particularly for growth alone, are chasing growth in the wrong areas. Like this is not a long term, like this is just another social feed that you have to play into.
Yeah.
Whereas he was like, yeah, we're angling our show for TV. Kara Swisher, we're angling our show for TV. Like people who come from traditional media have a different idea of what constitutes growth that I
Mhm.
do not think is trickling down to the indie level in a way that is, in their mind, uplifting the media industry as a whole. And by
Mhm.
Stark's own admission, they want to be a place where media is affecting culture. Like we are the place for media. The best work is on stuff, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think, like, to his point, it's like almost doing a disservice for you to think that Substack is the pinnacle, because in reality, it's like it's keeping you in the smaller pool of people that are never going to have access to some of the bigger conversations around creating a sustainable media company or a sustainable media platform,
Mm.
because you're still so like entrenched in this like indie growth, like discovery versus like longevity,
Mhm.
sustainability, deep relationship, network building that isn't built on short form at all. It's just
Yeah.
not. So,
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And I want to read Michelle's comment. Recently, I've seen a very large creator on the platform sour on Substack, and that's going to be an ugly breakup based on the current company. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be another shoe to drop. Like, we'll see what this. I mean, yeah. I think we've seen rumblings about Substack raising another venture round. We'll see what happens, what comes out of that, what other people potentially join the platform. But yeah, I think a few things are going to happen. One, competition is going to heat up. Beehive's not going to stop innovating, building, growing. Will another player enter the dance? Blue Sky got hot last year. It was like a comment that kind of fills it out a bit. Will something else pop up this year, early next year? Um, who knows? But I think my biggest takeaway is to look at the data. What does the data say? Right?
mm,
Like, what are you actually getting out of your routines on platforms that you're using? Right? Like, what are you doing every day on Substack, and what are you getting out of that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think right now, like this is the greatest ROI for Substack for me, like showing up on Substack Live.
Mhm.
Because again, with any new platform, social media platform, once they introduce a new feature, they like want to push that a lot. Um, I think I read something, is either today or yesterday, that Threads has now hit the daily user count of Twitter. So
Really?
that's what they say. So yeah, I think there was kind of like this skepticism of whether or not it would kind of take off after its original kind of like boom. But I think it has, and I think it's for a couple of different reasons. Like they have incorporated ads into the feed, but they look like inline posts. So they're not disturbing the feed in the way that they do on like an Instagram feed, which is
Mm,
nice, but they feel ignorable almost.
mm,
And I think the other half of that is it feels like for a lot of people, Instagram is just a known quantity. And so the product that is Threads that allows you to have this really text-based interaction, and less photo-based interaction for people who are not photographers or using Threads as their daily journal. Like, it's a great experience for them. Is there some Twitterification of Threads? Absolutely. Do I think it is anywhere near as toxic as Threads? No. Like, the dogpiling hasn't come over quite as much, um, which I'm hoping it doesn't, but that's the nature of the internet because people are ridiculous. But just in terms of platforms in general, I think Threads for people who really were craving monoculture, that's gonna be a place. I think Blue Sky was a lot of place for a lot of media news outlets because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I can post links, like, this is open web. Love this a
Mm,
little bit more." Like, people are Blue Sky isn't gonna hinder me from posting a link to my article.
yeah.
Um, I ironically, Beehive has a huge little community on Twitter still.
Yeah.
Still.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So it's like, people haven't completely left Twitter. It's like, but where are your people? And I try to think about that too. It's like, where are your people? Where does it make
Mhm.
sense for you to spend your time? And how can we maybe balance that time IRL too?
Mhm.
Like, okay, yeah, these people exist here. How can I meet them in real
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. Where do these people exist in my city?
Yeah,
How can I hang out with them in person? Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. I love that. Well, I think we have to cut it off there, man. I could, like I said, in the last newsletter, I could talk for hours. I knew that was gonna happen. Is there any like closing words? Like you mentioned Community OS. Like, when is that gonna come out? What are you up to next couple months?
yeah. I want to answer Michelle's question
Mhm.
about not having another place to communicate with them that isn't Twitter. Um, I would say when you put in a ticket, like a support ticket, you do get a person. Like if you're just like, give me to a person, I don't want to talk to a bot, and they will respond, and they're pretty good about responding. Their Slack channel used to be a place where a lot of them hang out. They do have moderators in there now, which is helpful. But if you have a pressing question, I would definitely
Yeah.
just do the AI bot or community space. Yeah, the Slack channel. I think that's like your best
Mhm.
bet. Um, and if you tag certain people that work at the company, they're more likely to respond. But yeah, I don't think they're ever gonna try to have another communicate space outside of Twitter and the Slack channel, which for me is fine.
One
But
thing
yeah,
on one thing I'll mention too, is if you just at mention an employee at Beehive or the main account, um, like you start the tweet out with a mention, it won't show up in your feed, and they'll probably reply like same day, I bet.
oh,
Um,
she doesn't use Twitter at all, is what she's saying. So
oh, okay, okay,
she doesn't use Twitter at all. Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. I typically because okay, so TLDR. So they did hit me up about doing like an influencer thing a while back. So I know or like have spoken with their social media person. So I try
Mhm.
not to like send them because I know they don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I know they don't know. I know they don't know.
Right.
Um, so I try to only hit them up on the main account when I'm like sharing progress on the newsletter, or if I have a specific question about like, hey, can y'all send me an ad partner that fits this bill? Because some stuff that they send me doesn't necessarily fit certain things. And I may be
Mhm.
looking for something specific for a specific article.
Yeah.
Not for asking questions, just to hang out with other people on Beehive. Yeah, the Slack channel. That's all I got for you, friend. I'm so sorry. And I know people have mixed feelings about Slack, but it is the best place to meet other people. And I've met other people that I co-recommend on the Slack channel. And like,
Mm.
oh, another thing we may want to talk about, we can talk about this offline. Anyways, to answer your question, Community OS, what else is coming out? So I was like, I don't know. I'm all over the place. Community OS hopefully is coming out next month. Um, Part of the writing has already started, so I'm not, like, starting from scratch this month. I have made significant progress on that, but I want to, 1, now that I've had space away from it, edit what I've already written and then add to some other chapters. So, I think there are about 9 chapters in it. So, trying to get that done. I think my goal is somewhere around 15,000 words.
Wow.
Um, so we'll see. But yeah, hoping to get that out next month. Um My first vibe coding attempt is gonna be the Melanin MVP website that is launching later this month as part of our 1-year anniversary, so I'm super excited about that. I'm exploring doing a run on Product Hunt. We'll see how that
Mm,
goes.
mhm,
Um, my next vibe coding project is my Rootful Media website that will be dropping in September as part of our 9-year anniversary. And then I have a really fun prototype of the Please Hustle Responsibly website that will be dropping in probably December because that coincides with our 2-year anniversary. So lots of fun little vibe coding projects. Other products, I have 3 ideas that I think are really good, and that feel really in line with what I could provide insight on. I don't have a timeline for writing them and putting them out. I wanna be realistic about my schedule for the rest of the year, but
yeah,
also, like, really put in a good faith effort for Community OS and making that, like, my signature product because all of them connect back to Community OS and would be good bundles with Community OS, but I
mhm,
can't make that case if I haven't actually put in the effort to, like, make Community OS a really great product out of the gate and really refine and iterate that to a point where I'm like, "Okay, now I'm ready to bring in other products into the lineup that complement this and also have a built-in user base where I can say, 'Hey, Community OS, for a very heavily discounted price, would you like these other products?' And to give us a review so we can keep that windmill of new people coming in."
mhm,
Um, so that's the idea for now. But, yeah, just trying to make the best products I could possibly make, and the best experiences online that I can possibly make. And hopefully that will translate, not hopefully, but I believe that it will translate into the expectations people have for when we do start doing more in-person events. So,
awesome. I love
yeah,
it, I love it. Well, definitely keep me, posted. I'll be, paying close attention, and, yeah, if you ever need any help with some of the code stuff, I might be able to save you some tokens. Hit me up.
always needing help.
Cool. Alright, well, I guess we'll end it there. Thank you so much. This was fun. Yeah, keep hustling responsibly. That's all I can
I
say.
will. I
It's
will.
great work. I love what you're doing, so
Thank you. I appreciate it.
alright, man. I'll see you. Bye.